The story of lobsters and crabs in America is one of hard work tradition and adaptation, blending centuries-old fishing practice with modern tools, sometimes even robotics, to handle the ocean's bounty more efficiently. Along the rocky coasts of New England and the cold waters of the North Atlantic, fishermen begin their day before the sun rises, preparing bait, coiling ropes, and checking their gear. The lobster trap, or pot, as it's often called, is still the heart of this fishery. It may look simple, a cage covered in wire mesh with a funnel-shaped entrance, but it represents generations of refinements. Each trap is designed like a miniature house, with a kitchen where bait lures the lobster in, and a parlor where it becomes nearly impossible for it to escape. Fishermen lower hundreds of these traps to the ocean floor, each one attached to a brightly painted buoy that carries the owner's unique mark, a floating signature that says, "This catch is mine." On board the lobster boats, hydraulics have replaced much of the back-breaking hauling once done by hand. The mechanical hauler grabs the rope, pulling the trap upward from depths that can reach 500 feet, dripping with seawater and seaweed as it breaks the surface. The excitement builds each time the trap rises. Will it hold a heavy, thrashing lobster, its claws snapping defiantly, or will it come up empty? Robotic arms are being tested on some vessels now, sorting and measuring the lobsters at lightning speed, reducing human strain and improving accuracy. Yet even with machines assisting, the knowledge of the fishermen is irreplaceable. They know by instinct which areas of the seafloor will be most productive, how the tides and temperatures shift the lobsters' movements, and how to maintain the balance between taking today's harvest and protecting tomorrow's. Conservation has always been woven into the lobster industry long before sustainability became a buzzword. Regulations demand that undersized lobsters be returned to the sea, and females carrying eggs are not only released, but marked with a V notch in their tail to signal to future fishermen that they must never be kept. Escape vents built into every trap allow smaller lobsters to slip out and grow larger, ensuring the population remains healthy. To combat the problem of ghost traps, gear lost to storms, or cut loose accidentally, fishermen now use biodegradable rings that eventually dissolve, opening the trap and giving any stranded lobster or crab a way out. These small adjustments, repeated thousands of times across the fishery, are why Maine lobster has become a global symbol of sustainable seafood. While lobsters are the iconic symbol of New England, crabs play an equally important role in America's coastal fisheries. From the icy waters of Alaska, where massive red king crabs are hauled up in steel-framed pots, to the sandy bottoms of the Pacific coast, where Dungeness crabs thrive, the process has similarities but also its own unique challenges. King crab pots can weigh over 700 pounds, designed like underwater fortresses that withstand fierce storms and currents in the Bering Sea. When the crew hauls one up, the deck comes alive with the scraping of claws, the heavy thud of crabs hitting the steel, and the quick, efficient motions of fishermen sorting the catch. Undersized crabs are thrown back into the sea, while market-sized giants are stored in chilled seawater tanks to preserve freshness. On some vessels, robotic sorters lend a hand, measuring each crab against legal size requirements and speeding up what was once a painstaking process. Dungeness crab fishing, by contrast, is more of a coastal affair. The traps are smaller, the depths shallower, but the work is no less demanding. These crabs live in eelgrass beds and muddy flats where traps baited with fish heads or squid are irresistible. Conservation rules dictate that only male crabs of a minimum shell width can be kept, while females and juveniles are carefully returned. It's not just about protecting the future of the fishery, it's also about ensuring local communities continue to benefit from this resource for generations. Along the Pacific Northwest crab festivals celebrate the start of the season, drawing families, chefs, and tourists alike to enjoy steaming pots of freshly caught Dungeness crab. The cultural connection between community and catch is as strong as the economic one. From trap design to seasonal limits, both lobster and crab fisheries demonstrate how humans have learned to balance harvest and habitat. The traps themselves are marvels of practical engineering. Funnels guide the animals inward, but the shape and mesh prevent escape. Escape vents allow juveniles to slip out a built-in insurance policy for the future. And biodegradable panels ensure that if a trap is lost, it won't sit on the ocean floor forever, continuing to capture unintended victims. Fishermen themselves pushed for many of these innovations, understanding that a collapsed fishery benefits no one. This mix of tradition, ingenuity, and regulation has kept these crustacean fisheries among the most sustainable in the world. Once the catch is secured, the journey continues from the deck to the dock. Lobsters are banded by hand to prevent them from injuring one another, then placed into tanks of chilled, oxygenated seawater. Crabs are handled in a similar fashion, sorted and packed into containers designed to maintain temperature stability. Every step is about preserving freshness, because the value of these shellfish drops quickly if quality is lost. Modern factories and distribution hubs have automated systems that regulate water flow, oxygen levels, and temperature, simulating the ocean environment as closely as possible. This means that when a lobster or crab reaches a restaurant table in Boston, San Francisco, or Tokyo, it tastes as though it came straight from the sea. Robotics and artificial intelligence are beginning to play a larger role here too. In some facilities, robotic claws gently lift crabs onto conveyor belts for sorting, while vision recognition software checks for shell cracks, missing limbs, or irregular sizes. Automated packing arms load boxes with uniform precision, speeding up a process that once required dozens of workers. But even with all this innovation, the heart of the industry still rests in the hands of fishermen who brave the waves, monitor the stocks, and pass down their skills through generations. Technology assists, but it doesn't replace the grit, timing, and instinct built up from years on the water. From an economic perspective, lobsters and crabs together represent billions of dollars in trade each year. The American lobster fishery in New England and Canada alone is worth more than $1.5 billion annually, supporting tens of thousands of jobs across harvesting, processing, and shipping. On the Pacific Coast, Dungeness crab generates hundreds of millions for local economies in Oregon, Washington, and California, where small coastal towns depend on the winter crab season to carry them through the year. Festivals and tourism amplify this impact, drawing crowds to taste fresh catches straight from the boat. What begins as a trap on the seafloor ripples outward into livelihoods, communities, and even international cuisine. Beyond the economy, lobsters and crabs play a deep cultural role. In Maine, lobstering is more than an occupation. It's an identity woven into local traditions, family legacies, and even art. Children grow up painting buoys with their family's colors, learning how to haul traps, and celebrating the first catch of the season. Along the Pacific Coast, Dungeness crab drives annual festivals where entire communities gather around steaming pots, sharing in a bounty that connects them directly to the ocean. Restaurants and food markets across America showcase these crustaceans as symbols of freshness and indulgence, from upscale lobster rolls in New England to hearty crab boils in Louisiana. But cultural pride goes hand in hand with ecological responsibility. Lobstermen and crabbers know that if they take too much today, there will be nothing left for tomorrow. That's why regulations like minimum size limits, escape vents and traps, and seasonal closures exist to let juveniles grow, to let egg-bearing females reproduce, and to make sure stocks replenish naturally. In Maine, the V-notch system marks female lobsters carrying eggs with a small cut in their tail, signaling to every fisherman that she must be released to safeguard the future. On the West Coast, rules require sorting out undersized crabs and returning them alive to the sea. These practices, shaped over decades, have made American lobster and crab fisheries some of the most sustainable in the world, even as global demand climbs. Internationally, the reach of this harvest is immense. American lobsters are exported across Europe and Asia, prized in fine dining markets, where a single lobster can command hundreds of dollars. Dungeness crab is a delicacy in China, Japan, and Korea, with shipments traveling thousands of miles in temperature-controlled containers to arrive live and kicking. The logistics behind this trade are a marvel of modern engineering planes equipped with specialized cargo tanks trucks that deliver within hours of landing and warehouses designed to mimic the sea. It is a supply chain powered by precision, but rooted in something timeless: the skill of fishermen who know how to read the tide's weather and migration patterns of the creatures they pursue. As the seasons turn, new forces shape the destiny of lobsters and crabs. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges for this industry, altering water temperatures, shifting habitats, and even changing the very chemistry of the ocean. In the Gulf of Maine, waters are warming faster than almost anywhere else on Earth, and scientists warn that lobsters may migrate further north to stay within their comfort zone. On the Pacific coast, Dungeness crab fisheries have faced sudden closures when harmful algal blooms appeared, producing toxins that made the catch unsafe for human consumption. These events remind fishermen that the ocean is both provider and master, and that balance must be respected if the harvest is to endure. Technology once limited to wooden traps and hand-hauled lines now plays a new role. Hydraulic haulers ease the back-breaking work of pulling heavy pots from the seafloor. GPS mapping and sonar help crews place traps with precision, targeting productive grounds while avoiding fragile habitats. Robotics are beginning to find a place too, with prototype machines designed to sort crabs by size and sex more quickly than human hands, reducing stress on the animals and speeding up the return of undersized catch to the sea. These innovations promise efficiency, but they also carry a responsibility to ensure that mechanization complements sustainability, not undermines it. Meanwhile, consumer trends are reshaping demand. Once considered a luxury reserved for the wealthy, lobster and crab have become more accessible, appearing in casual restaurants, food trucks, and even grocery store meal kits. Yet at the same time, high-end markets in Asia still prize oversized lobsters and pristine crabs as status symbols, pushing prices to record highs. This dual demand forces fishermen and processors to diversify, offering both premium live exports and value-added products like frozen tails, crab cakes, and ready-to-eat meals. For many coastal economies, this adaptability has meant survival during turbulent times of low prices or global shipping disruptions. Still, through all the change, the essence of the trade remains. Men and women rising before dawn, steering their boats into the salt air, hauling traps heavy with the unknown, and returning home with the ocean's gift. It is work that ties the past to the present, and with careful stewardship will carry into the future. Istekcha. Beyond the boats and traps, lobstering and crabbing are woven into the very identity of coastal communities. In towns along Maine, Nova Scotia, or the rugged shores of Alaska, the docks are more than just workplaces. They are gathering spots where stories are swapped, weather is debated, and generations pass down the craft. Children often grow up watching their parents haul traps, learning early how to splice rope paint buoys, or tell the difference between a legal catch and one that must go back to the sea. For many families, fishing isn't simply an occupation. It's a heritage, a way of life that defines their relationship with the ocean and with each other. Festivals celebrate that heritage every year. Lobster bakes bring entire communities together with long tables piled high with steaming crustaceans, corn, and potatoes, all cooked in seaweed over hot coals. Crab festivals on the Pacific coast draw visitors from across the country eager to sample fresh catches alongside music parades and maritime traditions. These events not only strengthen local culture, but also support tourism, bringing much-needed income to small towns that rely heavily on seasonal fisheries. At the dining table, lobster and crab continue to inspire awe. Few foods carry the same aura of indulgence as a lobster dinner, its bright red shell cracked open to reveal sweet, delicate meat. Crab, whether served as buttery legs, savory cakes, or rich bisque, has its own loyal following. Yet behind every elegant plate is the unseen labor of fishermen braving long days at sea, processors working to preserve quality, and managers ensuring that harvest levels remain sustainable. The journey from trap to table is one of constant vigilant skill and respect for a resource that could vanish if exploited carelessly. Even in the face of modern pressures, global trade, climate shifts, fluctuating markets, the story of lobsters and crabs is ultimately one of resilience. It is the resilience of species that have survived for millions of years in the ocean's depths, and of people who adapt, innovate, and endure to keep this way of life alive. Every haul of the trap, every crack of a shell, is a reminder of the deep bond between human effort and the ocean's abundance. And as long as that bond is honored with responsibility and care, the tradition of lobster and crab fishing will continue to thrive for generations to come.